This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today's Tuesday, August 6th of 2024. We're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I have an update from the U.S. Meat Export Federation as CEO Dan Hallstrom talks about another round of Regional Agricultural Promotion Program funding. So we'll have that later on in the show, but first let's take a look at the closing markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day in the ag marketplace, we're here with Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. Ross, what do we see going on in the grain markets today?
Had a turnaround Tuesday across the grain markets today, as yesterday they were higher and today corn ended the day. It was about 3 lower. Soybeans were all over the place, but they were 10 to 17 cents lower. And over in the wheat markets, they were a little higher. The Chicago wheat was around 5 cents higher and Kansas City was 3 cents higher.
So a big story in the markets over the past couple of days has been the global economy and the value of certain economies, and Japan being incredibly volatile right now. As we were talking before, the weather's cooled down here in Iowa. Has the marketplace cooled down in Japan?
It has today for the time being. The overnight, the Nikkei was 10% higher. Yesterday it was 20% lower, which was, I believe, one of the largest drops it's had since 1987, which was the year that Black Monday occurred. And obviously, as you alluded to, once that occurred, it spilled over into the U.S. equity markets, and the sell-off started last week and then continued yesterday extremely in an aggressive manner. But today, our equity markets here have stabilized as well. I don't know that I would rule out the potential for more downside, but as of right now, the Dow is about 600 points higher. The S&P is a little over 100 points higher, and that has spilled into the cattle markets as well. Yesterday they followed the equity markets lower and they stabilized. They had a little bit of a sell-off, but then did find a little buying here into the close. But for the grain markets yesterday, as all of that risk off was going on, the thing is people were wondering why'd the grains rally then if it was such a risk off day. And you've got the managed money crowd that's so heavily short corn and soybeans, and so as part of them de-risking, it's taking profit from their corn and bean shorts. And so that's what we saw yesterday when they saw an aggressive recovery. Corn started the day 6 to 7 lower and it ended the day higher. And I think today you kind of see that unwind again, where equities, they're back to pumping equities higher, buying those, and back to selling the grains, which has kind of been their theme over the last several months. So I do think it's interesting to monitor that moving forward and the potential impacts that will have. The one last point that I would make just on the grain markets is I do think soybeans being 10 to 17 cents lower today, that was a result of crop conditions coming in 1% higher yesterday. The trade was actually thinking they'd be 66%. The week before was 67. They actually came in at 68. This is the 7th highest that soybean conditions ratings have been for this week in the last 39 years. And I don't put a lot of stock in conditions, but at the end of the day, directionally, it does show you that the crop is in extremely good shape, which us and everyone across the Corn Belt knows right now. But the conditions being as good as they are and above 65% for this time of the year, historically, that does show that you are going to see an above trend yield. And so the USDA is at 52 today. Does that mean we could see a 53, 54 yield? I think I wouldn't rule that out with today's technology. And I think that's back to what soybeans are trading here today.
And then on the other side of the marketplace in the livestock complex, how have cattle and hogs traded today?
Like I said, cattle, they rebounded. They did have a sell-off early this morning. Fats were down about $1.50, which that brings a sell-off that they've had over the last week or so to about $13 across a lot of the live cattle contracts, and feeders, they were at about $3 lower at one point, which brought their sell off to $20 to $22 sell off that they've had in the last week. And to end the day, live cattle, they were anywhere from kind of steady to nearby August was up 40 cents. And the feeder cattle market nearby August was down $1, which that was more than $2 off the lows. And September was only 20 cents lower. So they had a good recovery. Again, with all of this volatility that we're seeing, and in my opinion, the potential for more global turmoil, uncertainty that could spill over into our equity markets, and I think eventually the cattle market, I think guys got to be on the defensive side or have a defensive mindset with this cattle market, and use rallies to manage risk or get some form of protection on. My fear is that we're not.
September
we're not
corn
out
down
of the
2
weeds
even
yet
at
on this
388
global
and 3
uncertainty
quarters.
and the impacts
September
that can have
soybeans down
into
17
all
and a
of these
half at
markets.
10.14 even.
And the
Soybean
hog
meal down
market,
8.10 at
it was higher
330.60.
today.
Soybean
August
oil
hogs were
down
12 cents
24
higher.
cents at
October was about 70
40.85.
cents higher.
Chicago wheat up
Interesting
3 3
enough,
quarters at
hogs
5.43
they've
and
held
a
in
quarter.
here.
Kansas
And,
City hard red
the
wheat
funds
up
have
1 and
been
a quarter
short.
at
Hogs had a
5.61
sharp
and a half.
rally here where
Minneapolis
they
spring wheat up
retraced
5 even
a
at
2 to 3 month
5.92 and a
sell-off
half.
in about 10
September
trading
oats up
days,
7 even
and they're
at
holding
3.30
support. I
and a
think
quarter.
the
On the Merc,
biggest thing
August
for
live
hogs
cattle up
is when you
42
look at
cents
like
at
the October contracts, they've
181.97.
got big support
August
around that
feeders down $1 at
$74
2.43
level,
even.
and I think that's
October
the key
lean
moving
hogs up
forward, is that
67
they've
cents
got to
at
hold that. The cutout was a
76.40.
little bit firmer
Pork cutout
this
went
morning and
unchanged
from
at
yesterday afternoon, but
92.45.
fundamentally there's
And
not
August class 3 milk up.
nothing big going on in the hog markets, but I think that 74 level, that's just a big level to hold. And I think if long as they can hold above that, hogs are all right. But there again, if we have another macro meltdown going on, my fear is that none of these commodities are going to be safe. So just hogs, similar to cattle, you use rallies to manage risk or get some form of protection underneath of them.
All right, Ross, lots of great information today. For those of our listeners who would like to get in touch and learn more from the folks at agmarket.net, how can they do that?
You can reach me at our office here in Anthon. Our number is 712-373-3276, or you can visit agmarket.net.
All right, Ross, thanks again for taking the time to visit with us today, and we look forward to getting more analysis from you soon.
Thanks for having me, Riley.
That again was Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers close through the market window at iowaagnet.com. And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I have an update from the U.S. Meat Export Federation. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Time now to take a look at the latest Iowa Ag News headlines. And today we have an update from the U.S. Meat Export Federation on the USDA announcing a funding notice for the second round of the Regional Agricultural Promotion Program, or RAPP, which utilized Commodity Credit Corporation funds to diversify export markets for U.S. agricultural products. The second round matches the $300 million allocated to various organizations in the initial investment, which was announced earlier this year. U.S. Meat Export Federation CEO Dan Halstrom has more.
USDA funding is key to our mission on enabling us to accomplish our goals, which is really to put more beef, pork, and lamb on the world's table. And the RAPP program complements that immensely. And what this program allows us to do is to diversify, expand resources, human resources, boots on the ground. We have offices in 20 regions around the world, and this will enable us to expand into regions like Indonesia, Malaysia, Africa. And this is one of the beauties of it, because it expedites market development in an area that will probably develop anyway, but not nearly as quick as it potentially could now with this extra funding. Like I said, not only for USMEF, but for a lot of our sister organizations in the cooperating community focused on developing agriculture globally.
Hallstrom said the U.S. Meat Export Federation has some priority areas that the RAPP funding needs to go to.
One of the genesis of this whole RAPP program was to really increase the footprint globally, not only for USMEF, but for all cooperators in ag products. And in our case, we've already focused in on some of these developing regions, none bigger than Africa. Africa is a mainstay of the RAPP program in both Tranche 1 and Tranche 2. There's actually dedicated funds specifically for Africa. So we were fortunate enough to get some funding in the first go around for Africa, and undoubtedly we'll be focused on it again in the second round. Africa is one of those markets that's very diverse, but a lot of potential going forward. Granted, there is a work to be done on the market access side, markets like Nigeria, for example, but that'll come with time. We look at the rest of the world, Southeast Asia. That's a huge opportunity for us. Places like the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, all very much big focuses of the RAPP program for us. Latin America, you look at Central America, you look at Colombia, you look at Chile, Ecuador, some of these places in South America as well, another focus for the program. So I think everyone would agree that more markets are better than less markets. And that's one of the purposes of this program, is to diversify that footprint.
That again was U.S. Meat Export Federation President and CEO Dan Hallstrom. That's all the time we have for the news headlines today. Thanks again for tuning in. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. So hit the notification bell and like our page to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well our morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as the Iowa Ag Matters podcast and Pods of Potential. You can find those on your favorite podcasting service at Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of the IRN broadcasting crew, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.